o'clock, so I will call this meeting to order. The chair notes that there is a quorum present, and we will do the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You sure can. Yep. Okay, 2.0, additions and revisions to the agenda. I don't have anything to do, no Commissioner? Okay. Move on to 3.0, which is correspondence and public comment. I'm going to do the correspondence first because we've got several folks who want to speak under public comment. We received 2 thank you notes. One is from the Rodeo Club, Columbia Basin Rodeo Club. It says, thank you for the $5,000 special projects grant. The rodeo helps not only the rodeo kids, but also brings many people to Gilliam County. The grant will help us continue having the Columbia Basin High School Rodeo at the Gilliam County Fairgrounds. That is one of them. And the second one is from one of our local 4-H'ers who I think benefited from the donation that we provided to the auction committee. It says, dear auction supporter, thank you for buying my market hog. I really appreciate your generosity and support of the 4-H program. This is my 2nd year raising 2 market hogs. I learned that it's important to walk your pigs daily. 4-H has been a great place to make new friends and learn new skills. I plan on using the money from the auction to try and buy a plane ticket to go visit my family on the East Coast. The rest will go towards saving for college and animals for next year. Bryn Hallowell. That's the other one. Okay, let's move on to public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair. Give your name and address. Limit your comments to 3 minutes. The other thing I just want to note for folks is that the court, because it is public comments, the court may decide to respond, may not decide to respond. I just encourage folks not to read too much into whether people respond or not. Sometimes we just want to hear everything that folks have to say. So with that, let's start with Wayne. Wayne, do you want to come up?
Okay, I'm going to refer to Susie Crosby.
Okay.
Make the presentation.
Do you want to come up so that you can speak into the mic?
That wasn't part of this deal.
And then we have folks that are watching at home too, so if you can just say your name and where you're from, that would be great.
I'll just stand because it's about the same sitting for me. I feel your pain. Okay, I'm Susie Crosby. I'm from Arlington. Okay, sorry. What's that?
Could you move the microphone closer? I'm not sure if people at home can hear you.
How's that? Okay.
I can hear you.
Hello?
That's better.
Okay, I'll speak about it. In Oregon today, we are faced with much the same political climate that existed in 1863. The Willamette Valley was and has been a hub of power in our state. In his book, Gail Antico described the situation for Eastern Oregon concerning the conflicts in the Indian Wars. His summation reminds us where we stand today, officially, at least, but hardly in practice. As far as Eastern Oregon, it didn't exist. The hub of power in Oregon has left rural Oregon without equal representation. Rural Oregon has 8 senators as opposed to 22 senators seated in the urban hub of power. There are 46 House representatives in that hub, with only 14 attempting to support rural Oregon. This has not always been the case, as before 1964, rural Oregon had a senator from most counties, but the United States Supreme Court decided that one man, one vote would replace Oregon's Republican form of government. The action violated Article 4, Section 4 in the U.S. Constitution, whereas the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a Republican form of government. We now live in a democracy where the majority rules and the minority is forced to live with an overbearing urban agenda that once again ignores that rural Oregon exists. These facts are the root cause of our desire to form a new state. This, along with a long list of grievances against the ruling class of Oregon, have driven the state of Jefferson movement to seek the formation of a new 51st state. It's our hope that Gilliam County Court will support this effort by submitting a resolution of declaration to the Oregon Secretary of State, the Oregon Senate, and the Oregon House of Representatives. We present a draft resolution for your review. In closing, we the people thank the court for the consideration of this matter.
Rick, did you want to speak too, or is Susie speaking on your behalf?
Wayne, Mike?
Okay.
Oh, I signed it thinking you just wanted to attend it, so Susie's done the job. and-
Okay, I was gonna say, if
Yeah.
anybody else that wants to add to that, we're obviously.
Oh, well, just, we submit a resolution and some grievances we have against the state, and for the court's consideration. If you decide to support that, then we would like to see that resolution sent off to Salem. That's about it in a nutshell.
Carly? Hello, come on up.
She came in after me.
Would you mind
Good
just while you're up,
design.
just putting your name down so we've got your name for the minutes? And if you don't mind coming up and speaking into the mic so folks can hear you too.
Yeah, you could.
What they're looking at. Or Susan. But I'm just curious, they should have.
How long would it take for the court to decide on something like this? Or at least give an answer, yea or nay?
So here's I have a couple of questions. So maybe are you going to speak on state of Jefferson as well? Okay. If you'll do your, go ahead and say, do your public comment, and then I have a couple of questions I wanted to follow up. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Carly Hughes, and I'm actually from Fossil. I'm here showing my support for Gilliam County because I'm the captain of the Wheeler County State of Jefferson movement. My husband is the co-captain. Gilliam and Wheeler County, we were trying to do this together at the same time for the same day. Unfortunately, we don't have enough signatures. We're just shy. But I just wanted to come here and show my support for Wayne and Susie and Rick and everybody else, because we've been out here. Just because we're in Wheeler County doesn't mean that my husband and I have been here with our boots on trying to get signatures. So I'm showing my support. And I strongly believe that we need to break away from the Willamette Valley. They're insane down there. As I call them, the state of confusion. Thank you, that's all. Thank you. I'll go back to work now.
Okay.
I'm on ship at Sun Springs.
Was there anybody else that wanted to say too? Yeah, I'll just leave this up here. If you don't mind, do it before or after, just sign your name and.
Morning.
Good morning.
At the risk of perhaps being a little bit too organized, I wanted to comment on this matter that is usually today courtesy of public comment portion of the meeting. For the record, as you know, my name is Leslie Mark. I live at 1288 Lower Rock Creek Lane, West End, New England, where I've been privileged to have worked as a resident farmhand for going on 36 years now. And I feel rather strongly about this issue, so I'm going to go ahead and read some prepared remarks so that I have that on the record. For the State of Jefferson Advocacy Group to ask that the Gilliam County Court today forward a yet to be arrived at a resolution for the state initiating succession proceedings from the state of whatever nature is way premature, incomplete, and something that just cannot be fairly asked of the governing body needing to act reasonably, prudently, and responsibly. Granted, there is some legitimacy and motivating reason behind this group's perhaps well-intended desire to call attention to a playing field that oftentimes needs to be leveled when it comes to how urban and rural interests in Oregon are considered. But frankly, proposing an effort to throw the baby out with the bathwater is certainly not a realistic answer to coping with the inequities of an urban-rural divide. What would help the group get to a real answer going forward is first for it to at least arrive at and propose a substantiated set of specifics the state of Jefferson would require. That is, the actual detail of how it would be structured, and more importantly, how it would be funded as the standalone area and entity that the group today simply naively, it seems to me, believes that the effort can somehow sustainably be. Otherwise, the group is asking, as it is, for the court to blindly sign off on what is essentially a blank check. A blank check which, if issued, would set in motion a costly and unwise effort that could end up seriously threatening the very stability, livelihood, and clout that the group says it is seeking to enhance, namely our community's own good judgment. Personally, I don't believe there are the specifics that can successfully be arrived at to empower or enable creation of the state of Jefferson. Having said this, however, I'm not attempting to claim or say that there might not somehow be. But what I am saying, and what I respectfully submit to my fellow Gilliam County residents who are here today as state of Jefferson proponents, is that they can do better. That they really ought to rethink their pursuit and instead choose to help where they can to close the urban-rural divide, rather than consciously or not working in the end to actually widen it. Again, I really can't add too much more than that, other than I do respect and understand where what I consider to be my friends and colleagues here in the county are coming from. But on this particular aspect of it, I think there needs to be a great deal more work before you're asked as the county's governing body to do much more than listen to them at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wants to weigh in on this or another issue?
I could add some, I guess.
Sure. You come up and just restate.
Pardon?
If you could just restate your name for the record,
Sure.
so that folks.
My mom calls me Clyde, but I go by the name, Stanford, Condon, Oregon. I understand Nick's, or I'm sorry, your name, sir?
Les.
Bless.
Les?
Right.
Oh, you're in. Anyway, there are a lot of issues to face with a new state. But I always go back to the founding of this country. They had issues that we can't even imagine. How to govern, how to finance it, on and on and on. Our main goal is to wake Salem up, one way or another. That we're not fully represented in rural Oregon. We've given you the numbers, you guys are aware of it, lack of representation. My hope would be, beyond the 51st state, or in lieu of, is we go back to equal representation for rural Oregon. But the first step is to let Salem know we're not happy. As far as financing, a sales tax is what we've looked at. Get the natural resources back to the people so that can be utilized to help fund the schools, a smaller government, less agencies. We're overburdened with regulations and they keep coming. Our amendments, our Second Amendment right is under assault constantly from Salem. So that's the reason that we want a divorce. If it doesn't come to that, when we have some reconciliation and some options, that would be good, because we'd like to see the state unified, but we can no longer live with what's going on in Salem. So that's the reason we're here. If the court decides to send this resolution in, that would be great. If not, then we will, as a citizens group, do it ourselves. We don't need to wait on government to tell government what to do. It's we the people. So thank you.
Thank you. So I just wanted a couple of follow-up questions.
Yes.
And, one, I'm curious, as So the Constitution is pretty clear on how a new state is formed.
Right.
It's not a local government decision.
Right.
I mean, it's the state legislatures presumably, or from what I've seen anyway, you're talking about the northern counties from California, the eastern and southern counties of Oregon. So you would, in essence, need both legislature, the Assembly in California, the legislature in Oregon, to sign off on that, and Congress to sign off on that
Right.
as well. So I guess my question is, doesn't it make sense that this conversation should be happening at the legislature? I mean, we don't have any role in deciding what the states look like. That's not, the Constitution is pretty clear that that's not our ability to do that. And so I would be curious, I mean, do you have legislators in Salem that represent us that are willing to carry that bill? Because it seems to me if you don't have that, there's really not a path for your goal. And so, I mean, I'm saying as somebody who works in both of these entities for quite some time, that I'm curious, do you have the legislative sponsors for the bills that are willing to carry these for you?
Not at this juncture, but if each county that's interested in the state of Jefferson starts putting pressure on Salem, and maybe some legislatures will say, yeah, we agree with that, then they might back it. But it goes back to we the people. If we the people aren't happy, we have the right to address what's going on,
Right.
regardless of what legislation wants to do with it. But yes, we have to have approval from state legislatures first, and then the Congress, which has happened 4 times in our nation's history. We've had states split for whatever reason, various reasons, mostly a couple during the Civil War. But first, they need to know we're unhappy, and we have an option for our unhappiness to settle our problems, and then we can sit down with them. But right now, we don't have a voice.
Seems to me, though, that the way to let them know that you're unhappy is to call your state representatives and
Doesn't work.
senators.
They don't listen.
But
They don't listen.
I get that, but I mean, literally, the 3 of us can do nothing about the shape of the states. We have 0 authority or power.
Yeah, and a resolution
any of
is
that.
not going to solve, not going to show any power. It's just going to show that we're in agreement or disagreement as a county to separate. It just gives them notice. There's no real power. Even if we do it as a citizens group, it has no power, no teeth, but it's a step. And then if another county does it, and another county like that's happening in North California, they're going to say, well, what's going on here? Maybe we better listen, which in California that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
You know, so, and we don't necessarily have to be joined to Northern California. There's options, if we get enough counties in Oregon, to have our own and not actually be involved with California. So they're in legislation and actually law right now in court trying to resolve their issues in Northern California. And I don't know exactly where that's at, but they brought it from a movement into the court of law. And so that's good progress. People are starting to listen.
Well, and that's my second question, is it seems to me, I mean, the argument is, a lot of this is based on the 64 ruling.
Right.
That basically changed the makeup, in essence, of the Senate. So the next question I would be asking is, how come you're not, instead of looking at splitting off, how come you're not actively challenging that and saying, for instance, if you could get this new Supreme Court, which is arguably much different in makeup from the 64 court was, to actually look at reversing that and allowing, for instance, Oregon would have potentially one senator per county or something, seems to be more, I mean, if you don't have any legislative sponsors at this point, that doesn't seem like a viable path, at least until you can convince some people. And I mean, I get what you're saying, that Salem's not listening to you, but our representatives are from here. And so to me, if you can't convince them that they need to sort of carry the water for you, I don't know how else you would get this done. It seems like maybe a court case to see if that is still, I mean, that might be something that you consider pursuing as a way to get to your end goal.
That could happen, but let's go back to the founding of this nation. They had no support. They signed a Declaration of Independence to the King and moved forward. And it could come to that for the state of Jefferson if we get enough counties involved. Say, we're done. And then it will go to court, be a big court battle. But waiting on legislation in our legislatures is really a waste of time. And I go back to White's meeting with the Arlington High School when they brought up teachers having guns. He did not listen to those kids and their concerns. They have their agenda, we have ours, and right now, the two don't meet. Sadly. You know, I would love to go to Salem and say, hey, here's our problem, will you help us? But time after time, it's proven not to work. We proved that. They're gonna come back with HB 2020 in one form or another after we all demonstrated last year against it. They do not listen to us. They don't, and you know, the history of Oregon is Eastern Oregon does not get listened to. From the Indian Wars forward. You look at the history of it, we're kind of like the bastard children over here. As long as we pay our taxes, they're happy with us. And sadly, that's my attitude. And a lot of us, we're just tired of the lack of representation, them passing laws that, you know, you go back to gun laws, there's enough gun laws on the books to stop what needs to be stopped, at least work on it, but they want to take guns away from law-abiding citizens. It's one thing after another. Taxes and fees keep going up, why? Where's the money going? So, a lot of arguments, a lot of discussion. Our main goal is to put some pressure on Salem, and maybe they'll listen, and maybe we can get a compromise and get a senator per state, or per county, to get some representation. That would be a nice compromise. So, the whole goal is to put some pressure on Salem right now, one way or another.
Just want to throw something out there. When you look at every state, it seems that the urban versus rural, it's not even political parties to me, as much as our needs are different in rural Oregon, and you guys, if you've lived in rural Oregon for a while, you know that our needs are different. I can bring it down to, I'm an EMT. As an EMT, what I need as an EMT in rural Oregon is way different than what they need in, Portland or Salem, wherever. We have to have different rules even to work with. For an example, I'm an intermediate. Intermediates, they try to phase them out. I can give pain meds, I can start IVs. These things are needed in rural Oregon because they're like an hour from anywhere, right? So what I'm looking at is rural Oregon has different needs, different views, just as, honestly, rural areas of California different than the city. So it always seems to be the urban versus rural and what our needs are. And to me, state of Jefferson is, we're going, hey, something really needs to change here because we are not being represented. And we're tired of going along with whatever the urban areas think are best. They might be best for them. They're not best for us.
Anything more?
I hope I answered your question after my ramble.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my question as well, so that you did answer my question.
Pardon?
I said that was my question as well that I had written down.
Okay.
So that did answer my question.
Well, we thank you for consideration, and I know it's a big decision, whether to support it or not. And like I said, it's just more of a notice to say that we're not happy, and we'll see where it goes from there. But I do believe more counties from Oregon are going to sign on, get more signatures, and come to their county courts and ask for a declaration. And that will maybe open the door for some discussion with Salem in a serious tone where they will actually listen to us and go from there. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Oh, yeah. You're welcome to stay. Okay, let's move on to 4.0, the consent agenda.
Any questions? I do not have any, so I move that we accept the consent agenda. A second.
Okay, it's been moved recommended that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of October bills pending review, consider approval of October 2nd regular meeting minutes, consider approval of October 2nd work session minutes, consider approval of October 23rd special meeting minutes, consider approval of amendment number 3 to ODOT grant number 32393, consider approval of fiscal year 2019-2020 transportation of veterans in highly rural areas grant agreement, and consider reappointment of Marta Michaelo to the Gilliam County Planning Commission. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Let's move on to 5.1, which is Frontier Telenet update. We had a meeting on October 23rd over in Fossil. Highlights are we continue to receive USAC money. It continues to roll in on the quarter. We have all but I think the final 2 quarters of the just completed fiscal year that need to come in. And so the board went ahead and obviously, during budget time last year, or this year, we were not anticipating that money coming in, and so we ended up doing a supplemental budget on the 23rd to account for those funds. Let me think of what else we've got going on. We just cleaning up a couple of leases. We are still in discussion about a management plan for Frontier Telenet and what we want to do with that. Day Wireless came in with a proposal that I had not seen ahead of time, and I don't think Judge DeBolskos had seen ahead of time. So both of us had asked for more time to consider that. My personal feeling is that I would prefer to put that out in an RFP and see who else may be out there and interested, just do our due diligence. I think looking at their initial proposal, it's probably high enough anyway that we need to do that. And I'm trying to think of what else. We're moving forward on Cottonwood Tower site. We approved the lease with the landowner for that. And Judge DeBolskis has sort of been the lead on figuring out a building and tower and all of that kind of stuff. The other thing that is pertinent to us is that the Roosevelt shelter, which primarily it's on the Washington side and primarily is for connectivity in Gilliam County, has some serious repairs that need to be made. And so I will be talking to electricians and roofers and things to try to get that up to snuff and repaired. So other than that,
So as far as the management piece of it and going out for the RFP, there wasn't a decision made at that meeting of exactly what you were going to do, so it's still kind of in limbo until
yeah, so
next quarterly meeting.
yes, my plan is to take sort of what Day Wireless really didn't give us any figures when they just sort of gave us a list of the things that they thought they could do. And they were missing some things like some of our regulatory filings that are required. And so what I'm planning to do is sort of start with that list and enhance it and use that as a basis to bring back sort of a draft RFP for the board to consider. That would be my kind of goal. We are on quarterly meetings now because it's stable, and so we're not meeting monthly any longer. So we won't meet again until late January. And so I'm not going to probably put Frontier Telenet as an agenda item until after January, unless something, unless the rest of the USAC money comes in or something exciting. But otherwise, it seems to be in a pretty good holding pattern. The other thing, just to note for the record, is that there was a request. We had been, our minutes had been, in lieu of written minutes, we had just been basically recording the audio as our official recording. We're going to continue to record that, but also made the decision that we would have written minutes as well, just as an easier reference for folks to look up motions and things like that. So we'll have both of those going forward. So I just wanted to know for the record, because there's a few people in the crowd that do come regularly to Frontier Telenet meetings and may be interested in that development. And other than that, we don't meet again until January. So,
Good news.
any questions?
I like to hear about minutes. That sounds good.
Yeah, I think that'll be great, so.
First, people with two-step paper.
Safer feedback. The audio, I understand, was difficult to follow along with too.
Sure.
And you couldn't really fast forward it very easily, so.
Says that summary.
Exactly. That's all I have for that. So let's move on to 5.2, which is discuss the Liberty Theater loan. And Boyd, do you guys want to come up? And while you're coming up, I'll just sort of refresh the court that we have currently a business development loan with Mr. Don James for the Liberty Theater. It is currently past due. The last time that we met, we had agreed, or the last time that we discussed this in a meeting, we had agreed to sort of put that loan on hold because there were some interested buyers in the Liberty. And so we were just kind of waiting to see how that shook out. And so that prospective buyer is here and has a proposal for us to consider. So.
This is Shay Volker.
I'm Shay Volker, and I'm interested in buying the theater.
Fantastic, great.
I would like to take on the loan at the time of purchase and then make monthly payments on that until it's paid off or paid off as early as possible. My intention is to open the theater as a live music venue and do maybe local productions. I have 3 children, so maybe children's theater if they're interested in using the theater at whatever time of the year. But get it up and running again and turn it into something.
And so the specifics that Boyd conveyed to us, we have a balance of, looks like about 10,800 more or less. Nathan can double check on exactly where we are with interest and things like that. And so we talked, the proposal is that it would be a 5-year loan. That we would extend that out for 5 years and with 5% interest, which is, I believe, the 5% was what Mr. James had in his agreement. And so payments would be roughly $205.
It's $204.08.
Yeah.
We gotta have a new figure of $10,814.30 is what the loan would be on December 5th, which is our closing date.
Okay.
So what we need is a document that we can take to the title company. They will write the trustee, they will write the note, they will write the documentation, the advance, to hear all that. What we need from you guys is a contract like what's in your package.
So if we are open to this, what we would do, I think, is probably ask council to turn that document around for us and bring it back. If we needed to, I haven't looked at the calendar to see when our December meeting is. So we could also potentially, if we needed to, do a special meeting to approve it, if we needed to get that done sooner than the 4th of December, if that would be helpful. I don't know if that.
Would be very helpful.
Okay.
Because we would like to stick with that date. There's so many things going on, contracts and things up to the 5th. To change it, we already changed it from the 11th to the 5th. Just to make sure we had more
I was
time.
supposed to be moving down.
Yes, to find a place to live.
Oh, yeah, that is a
So
problem.
we're looking for accommodations also.
Got it. So what I would need today is just direction from the court on it. This is something that you want to move forward with. We obviously need a document to actually vote and finalize, and so we'd have to bring it back. But I need direction on whether you're okay with these terms, you want to move forward with this. And if so, then Teresa and I can get a special meeting scheduled for us to just take up this so that you've got the document finalized with plenty of time for your closing.
This is very encouraging, and your ideas
Yes.
are exciting.
I've already got a business plan and a business partner and investors in the business lined up to where when I clothes, I can start
Get started.
remodeling, get it up to snuff. I would like to start the first show at the big basketball tournament.
Oh, all right. That would be
The grand
nice.
opening.
When you get your plan completed, is that something you can share?
Absolutely. It is actually completed. I could have my business partner email it to me and I could email it to Boyd.
Be great.
If you can send that to Teresa Boyd,
Pardon?
if you can send that to Teresa,
Okay.
and she can get it out to the court members, that would be great. Okay, so it sounds like,
Move forward.
it sounds like we're okay with the terms, and so we will just, I will ask our council to turn this around quickly, and then Teresa and I will get a special meeting scheduled a little later this month, with hopefully enough time that you can get everything done on your side in time for your closing.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good luck.
And we'll keep you posted on when we schedule the special meeting, but
Thank you much.
it'll be about a 5-minute meeting, I guess. So. All right, let's move on to 6.1, which is discuss application for PERS Employer Incentive Fund Matching Funds. Nathan, you want to come up and... We started to put together a briefing for this, and then I realized that if I tried to explain this in writing, I was going to make it more convoluted than if I just
It is a little
asked
complicated.
Nathan to come and kind of share what we're looking at. So,
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm going to try to make this easy, but if there's any questions or you want more detail, I'll go into as much as I have up here, and then we'll have to defer to something else. But in a nutshell, PERS made an offer. There's a unfunded actuarial liability, which is a fancy way of saying people didn't pay enough in to cover their costs. And different municipalities, counties, cities all have different unfunded actuarial liabilities. Ours is 189%. So what that means is we have basically it's based on demographics, and it's based on their expectations of what's going to happen in the market, and it's based on how much money we put in. And that's how they calculate our PERS rate, and it's used in our budget. So there was an incentive by the state. The state doesn't want these unfunded actuarial liabilities because eventually somebody's got to pay for it. And the incentive from the state was a 25% match to entities that had 200% or more unfunded actuarial liability if they would pay their liability down. So this was $100 million was the incentive, and to date, it's been $16 million has been expended by the state to pay this down. So that was the first go around. Well, ours was up under the 200% threshold, so we weren't eligible to apply for this. So second go around is the application is due by December 2nd, and it's just basically anybody that has an unfunded actuarial liability. So we fall in this pool. So we would like to apply to take advantage of matching dollars and pay our unfunded actuarial liability down. So our current unfunded actual liability is approximately $3.7 million. So what the program has is you've got a minimum amount you can pay and you have a maximum amount you can pay. And our minimum amount is $25,000, and our maximum amount is $1.2 million. So let's just, for fun, say we pay the $1.2 million, we get a match from the state for an additional $300,000 for a total of $1.5 million. So it would reduce our liability by approximately 40%. So normally the treasurer's office is in charge of investing funds, but really the funds have to be invested in banks designated by the court, banks or institutions. And so this isn't exactly an investment. You're just kind of paying ahead, and then what will happen is your PERS rates will change. They'll be less. So
for the
it's
long run.
for the long run. So really you're kind of investing in PERS as a way to think about it, but it's not exactly a traditional investment. So it's really outside my purview, because I would have just done this already. I wouldn't have even asked. I mean, this PERS internal rate of return's about 4 times what we get on our investment portfolio. So I would have just done it. I think it's a no-brainer. The 25% is even better, because that's an additional like 10 years worth of interest at our current rates. So yeah, I would have just taken the $1.2 million, which you would have never heard about it. But instead, this is your decision. because it's not actually an investment. So that's why I'm here. So that's number one. Number two, PERS is also offered if we are able to apply to just pay ahead to reduce our rate. We don't have any kind of figures on that because we haven't applied. There is a fee to apply, and we have to apply, I think it's by the end of this month, but I forgot the date. So that's something else that Alan and I have discussed it. We think this is a good deal too. There's no matching in this case, but still internal rate of return is approximately 4 times what we get, so I don't understand why we wouldn't. Probably if timing works out right, this would really be part of the budget process next year, so we just go ahead and fund it that way instead of trying to find money somewhere in the budget to make it happen. But I think
For both options or just the
second option.
Just the second option.
First option, we really want to get that done by the end of the year, because what it is PERS calculates, they run on biennium budget, but they run on a calendar year instead of fiscal year, which seems odd, but that's the way they work. So they need to know by the end of this year so they can calculate the rates for next year. So if we don't get it paid, the first option, if it's not done by the end of the year, it wouldn't affect our PERS rates for an entire year and a half, because they'd recalculate 2020, January 1st, 2021. So we've got a little bit of a push to get the first one done, if we want to take advantage of that starting August of 2020.
So where would the money come from out of the budget?
Well, our go-to, it's always so discretionary. There's currently $3.5 million there. We spent, pulled this around $800,000. So, and I'm unaware of any other upcoming expenditures other than grants that you're going to talk about today, but their total is way less than that. So I think that leaves us sufficient breathing room to make it through the rest of the year. I mean, I thought of more creative ways to do it, but I don't think they're necessary.
And is that, so for the first option, is that an automatic thing, or does the state have to approve? Do we have to apply and they say that
We have to apply,
do it,
they'll
or-
send it in, and basically they're gonna get everybody in line, and then they'll tick us off. So if they run out of money, we may not get the 25% matching. We could still pay it down, but we may not get the matching. But, who knows? I mean, I think the risk is, part of the reason the 200% was there is maybe those entities couldn't afford to pay to begin with. So that may be why not a lot of people, in my view, I guess, not a lot of them took advantage of that.
What's kind of rate do we have now? What are our rates now?
For PERS,
Yes.
26% of salary. And that's gone up from, it was about 15.6, it's actually 25 point something, but it's 26 and it was like 16. So I haven't seen the rates for the next biennium. But I think it's relatively high. I mean, if I could just get 25% of my salary every year, basically, is what's happening. That's pretty good. I mean, it's a lot of money, really, for your average employees. 25% would be a lot of savings. So I'm not saying PERS is inefficient necessarily. I'm just saying it seems like that's a significant contribution.
So for the court today, let's talk about the first option that Nathan was saying. Basically, I think what Ellen is just looking for is confirmation on whether it's okay to apply for those matching funds or not.
We really look at two things, just that it's okay to apply, and then, we just need a feeling basically like what level of participation. I mean, we're talking 25,000 or just want to go whole hog and go for 1.2 million, or like Wasco County, I talked to their finance director, he's like, that's a no-brainer, you gotta do the whole thing. So there's 1.2 million right away. Or maybe it wasn't Sherman County, 1.2 million, I don't remember what Wasco, but he's, so, but maybe your comfort level's not there, or maybe I don't know everything. I wish I did sometimes, but that would be a great burden. But whatever level the court's really comfortable with is part of it. So.
It's a pay now or pay later scenario anyway.
I think real long term. I'm out, so I'm thinking, we're gonna end up paying it. I mean, because all we'll do is just keep raising our rates. So why wouldn't we at least take advantage, try to take advantage of the matching? And then the internal rate of return's greater, so, I mean, I'm already there without the matching.
The match came out to like 300 and some thousand.
Yeah, $300,000 if you did the full amount, so.
I mean, I feel like we have the money. I would want to just double check that there's enough in the SIP discretionary to cover the 1.2. Just double check those numbers. But I'm thinking if there's enough money to cover that, then why wouldn't we do the whole thing? To me, we don't know down the road how much future courts, how much resources they will have, things like that. We have money now. It feels like if we take care of some of that liability now, we'll be doing the future courts or our future selves a favor.
Pay now or pay later.
Yeah.
We have to pay one way or the other. I agree.
And the state might not be putting money on the table down the road.
That's true. Take advantage of everything we can.
And I'd like to take advantage of that match.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, yes, we apply.
Yes.
And then in terms of, I would say, I would be comfortable with the 1.2 if there's sufficient money in the SIP
Yeah, I feel there is.
to do that.
I mean, we freed up, remember at the budget committee, we talked.
Your extra million.
Well, yeah, an extra
Yes,
million, so
coming
there
in
it goes right
handy.
Freed it up. Didn't know
That's
what was
okay.
gonna happen, but.
Okay, so that's part one. And part two, I mean, Ellen and I'd like to apply to that, but there's a fee, the fee's $1,000, and then they'll give us some sort of better idea. I mean, it's really vague at this point, because they don't know till they do the calculations, so.
I mean, I feel like.
I mean, I could, that's one that, you know, it's a small enough amount, I could just go rogue and go do it. But I don't want to spend $1,000 at the court. You know, I know you're only part of the budget committee. One of the budget committee members did talk to them yesterday about this briefly, because they called about one of the grants, which is a whole other discussion. But they're like, well, why would we do this? So, I don't know, just if the court thinks that this is something that they would like to include in the budget next year, we'll go ahead and apply. If it's a non-starter, I'm not sure I see the point. But.
I think it would, and the other thing is that 1,000 also will tell us what our actual liability and rates are gonna be, right?
It's supposed to.
So I think that
Or
would be
at
helpful.
least give us a better idea.
To see that picture and be able to budget for it next time. You know, set aside money to help pay down
So
the
we don't end up
liability.
in this situation again where we don't know where we're gonna be at. We need to do everything we can to give ourselves that advantage.
Yeah.
I'm okay with
Budget time.
I'm okay with
I
doing
agree,
goals.
yes, I'm pleased.
And then, but option two, that's something that we can decide a little later on.
They just kind of came up with this idea. I mean, well, I don't know if they just came up with it, but they just introduced it to us like a week and a half ago. So it's extremely vague, and I need more details before I could make any kind of decision really.
And we would have to budget for it because there's not funds in it
I
anyway.
mean, we could probably
so-
move some money around the budget, but it would be a lot better just, but you know, we're trying to make things clear in the budget about what happened. Start doing supplemental budgets and bouncing things around. And you want input from, you know, more people, so the budget committee runs through them. I think
I think that
the
makes
optimal
sense.
way to do it.
Okay.
But at least we can get that
Yeah,
application in and get
Yeah, because I mean,
It's
Our
just-
foot in the door.
budget season's gonna be upon us,
Yes, it is.
so,
months.
yeah, April 1st.
Woohoo. Okay, do you have everything you need?
I think so.
Okay.
Okay,
All
go
right.
for it.
All
Thank you.
right. Thanks, Amy.
Best wisely.
That's wisely. Okay, we are moving on to 6.2, consider appointment of Gilliam County Library Board member. This was, there was a vacancy on the board. It was published in the Times Journal, on the county's website. We had one person submit a letter of interest in time for the October 10th deadline, and that was Chris Batlin. So,
Who's currently on board? Do we know off the top of our head?
good question. I don't off the top of my head. I know Cindy Osterland's the president. David's on there.
Sarah Rucker.
Sarah Rucker, I think, is on there.
Do they approve of this appointment?
I assume so.
Leslie.
I mean, it's the only person.
Because the last time I You know,
Well, Sarah Walker.
on a previous court that we tried to appoint somebody, and then I found out later that they really wanted their board to approve it first and let us know that they were in favor. So I was just curious if we heard from anybody on the board.
We have not. I think we're okay. though.
I think okay. I
If
just,
we
like I
had-
said, prior experience.
If we had more than one, then maybe that would be appropriate to run it by them, but as we only have one,
Right, and we need one.
and we need one, I think it's probably appropriate to appoint that person.
Don't want to get in trouble again.
I'm gonna get in plenty of trouble before we're done. Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay, I move to appoint Chris Fatland to the Gilliam County Library Board.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we appoint Chris Fatland to the Gilliam County Library Board. Is there further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, let's move on to 6.3, consider capital investment grant awards, review and award funds. So this is our, for those of you watching at home, this is our second cycle for this budget year. We had decided for our capital investment grants, which are basically larger construction grants, that we would take applications twice a year. And so this is the set of fall applications that came in. We had 3 of them. And just like the last time we did this, the review committee, which consisted of Teresa and Judge Patnode and Nathan, met and did an initial review and provided their feedback, their initial feedback to us. Recommendations on funding levels, to fund and to not to fund. So those are in your packet. And I don't know if you want me, if we want to just start from one and move all the way through and kind of talk about each one.
Yep, let's do it.
Okay. So the number 1 ranked applicant was the Elks Lodge, who is asking for funds to update their HVAC system. And the review committee's recommendation was to fund it. There was a recommendation that it was funded with some conditions, the condition being that it be funded at $30,800. And this is because it looked like the application was actually a little short on the 35% match. And so that would get us to the 35% if the Elks kicked in that additional 3. But it was, I mean, the feedback from the review committee, and I agreed when I read this, was it was very well written. I think it falls right in alignment with the pillars that we sort of set up as things that were important to us. Yeah. And I thought it was really clear on the budget, all that kind of stuff. And so their recommendation was to approve it. That's kind of where I am too. Since
The only concern I have, and I brought it up the last time that we funded the Elks events, the outdoor area they were wanting to do, is just that it's a private group. And so it's just a pause. I just take a little bit of a pause. And so I wonder what exactly are the community events and like that are housed in the facility?
It's not only a private, but it's also a business.
And it's a nonprofit.
Nonprofit,
So it actually fits within our
The parameters.
I can tell you some of the events, like the upcoming Christmas festivals held there. We've held Cub Scout formation meetings lately. The grade school football team just had their end-of-year dinner there. We have tons of weddings, funerals, those sorts of things that are held there.
We used to do like the graduation night.
We do the drug and alcohol-free graduation party for the graduating seniors. It's the Farm Bureau's meeting there tomorrow. ESD meets there, the City of Condon meets there, have their annual dinners. It's something that's used throughout the year by the entire community.
Is there a fee? Is there a fee for, do you guys charge a fee for?
Generally not.
I mean, it mentions something in the application about providing a service to the community and times when other businesses are closed. and travelers come through and maybe have kids so my question is can anyone eat in the restaurant? Or is it?
Officially, no. Unofficially, we welcome in guests. A guest of a member can come in at any time with that member, and we are very open to when the gas station sends somebody who's passing through town and needs that we will sign them in as our guest. If I'm there, they will be my guest, whether I know them or not.
And times in particular when we didn't have as many Main Street restaurants, sometimes it literally was the Elks was the only option for people.
Right. Most, especially evenings, it's either us or the Roundup bar. You can't obviously take your kids in there.
Okay, those were just a couple comments that I had.
Okay.
Other than that, I thought it looked great.
Okay. Rather than do individual motions, I think let's just go through all three and then, or unless you want to.
I think we should do it one at a time, just because
There's only
I'm not
three, yeah.
sure, well, depending on how our discussion goes, if we might have to hold off on one of the other ones.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, and I don't want to hold this up with our question,
Okay.
with the questions I have on some of these items.
So do we want to make a motion on the Elks application?
Are we thinking that we'll go with the recommended amount from the review team? Not the full amount, but.
30,800 as opposed to the 33,882.
I mean,
What level are we?
that was my thought, just because we were pretty clear on the match side.
We don't want to make an exception.
Yeah, and it's very, it's very close, like, $3,000. Okay.
3,300, almost 3,400.
Okay.
I hope that doesn't keep them from getting their HVAC, but I do think we need to stay within our parameters. And
Do you think they can come up with the extra 1,000?
We can. I don't have it from me, so I thought we were within the parameters, but if we're out, then
It was
we'll find a way with
28%.
additional fundraising. We'll get it done.
Okay, I would move that we award a capital investment grant to the Elks Lodge in the amount of $30,800 to be funded from the fiscal year 2019-20 SIP discretionary line item with conditions imposed as discussed and pending a fully executed grant agreement. The judge is authorized. Go ahead, you can say that too. The judge and authorize the judge to prepare and execute grant agreements.
second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we award a capital investment grant to the Elks in the amount of $30,800 to be funded from the fiscal year 2019-2020 SIP discretionary line item. The conditions imposed as discussed and pending a fully executed grant agreement. And the judge is authorized to prepare and execute the grant agreements. Is there further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, we'll get a grant agreement over to you guys hopefully this afternoon even, so we can get that.
Thank you very much.
So you can get
Okay, let's move on to the number 2 ranked, which is the Arlington Tea Co-op. They submitted a request basically asking us to help fund, I don't know, the head equipment, I guess is what they call the head end equipment for high definition television service that would be provided over the fiber optic network that they're building. The recommendation from the grant committee was that the board did not to fund it. I think there were concerns in particular about the long-term viability of this and whether the technology is moving away from this kind of setup where people are starting to use Hulu and Netflix and a lot more streaming. This is going to become an obsolete sort of technology that we're funding. The other thing, this was not from the grant committee, but something that two concerns that I also had. well, actually, the main concern I have really is I really want to see fiber deployed. And I'm a little concerned about diverting resources because as you see in here, there's a cash, they have to have a cash match. And so this is money that could be used to deploy fiber, that would be used to deploy this other technology. And so I'm concerned about diverting resources away, especially given that we just extended the terms of the loan for them because they're having trouble cash flowing.
Those are all my concerns. Exactly.
And then the other, the other piece of that is just, I just want to have this rolled out, the fiber rolled out.
We need to complete a project. That's what I see here. Is, yeah, and my concern is we just had to, or we didn't have to, but we just extended their loan because they were unable to make a payment on their loan. So where's the $85,802 in matching funds coming from?
That was my question too. But I think they said it was coming from Community Bank.
It is.
But why aren't we using, if we can get that money, why aren't we using that to fund the project that isn't finished yet?
Deployment is my concern.
That's my other concern. I wish them total success, and I'm behind them all the way, but I'd really like to see them complete the fiber, show some sustainability before we take on something else.
The other thing that was missing for me, and so this may be feedback to them, is I think I would feel differently about this if, for instance, they had come to us and said, we have customers who are unwilling to sign up with us because they want to bundle their fiber and their TV. And if we can have if we can deploy television as well, we get X number of additional people, that would make us cash flow. I mean, but I don't think their application really makes that financial case.
Did they really show us that? Did they have people actually committed that said, if this, I would?
Yeah, and I don't think and so that would be at least the feedback that I would give back to them, is that if they wanted to pursue this with us in the future, that is something that I would want to see, is how this in particular cash flows for them.
Right.
And hopefully improves the fiber side, makes them more sustainable and less likely to need support on the other side.
And I had some questions too. I wish somebody was here from them to answer a couple of the questions I had. It said something in the, I think in here, it was either in here or their application. Anyway, something about a survey was mentioned, and I would be interested to see results of the survey that instead of saying something like, are you interested in that? I mean, is there a way that they could phrase it that is more like, this is what we provide, this is the cost. Would you be willing to switch your provider? Flat out.
Commit.
Yes. Or, how, just a little bit more level of commitment from people and find out how many customers we're talking about. Is it 15 or is it, 190?
Yeah.
That would be interesting. The other thing I was concerned about a little bit is looking over their budget is their advertising is $20 a month. And I know they struggle, I know they don't have a lot of extra money, but, and I'm wondering too, looking at our next applicant who is the port, is that something that the port could help with, in our economic development arm with the,
With the advertising itself?
with the advertising. I don't know. But something I think they need to boost that somehow, because that is not a lot.
So how are we feeling on the grant application itself?
I still have questions. It's hard to say. I mean, as much as I want to help them, and as much as I want to do whatever we can to make them successful, I just still have a lot of questions.
And the thing is, they can always, so if we, for instance, were to deny this today, I think it's perfectly okay to go back to them and say, here's really the kinds of things that we would have liked to see in this grant. And so, because they may have a business case in here, it just wasn't necessarily in this application, right? And so they came back to us and answered those questions on why their advertising looks like this, and here's what it does cash flow, and here's how. I just feel like the application itself didn't capture that for me, and so.
And the actual survey that they talked about, giving us some results of what was the question and what was the answer, and what was the percentage. Just saying that they had done the survey doesn't give us any results in the survey.
A lot of the information provided, well, it says it in here, but I noticed it too when I was going through it, is that pretty outdated. Tax returns from 2014.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
So, I mean, things obviously changed. Board members are different now, so it's.
Yeah. So I mean, my own opinion, I think I would sort of concur with what the grant committee is recommending, which is a do not fund, but I think we can also, in my conversations with them, letting them know if we're in agreement on that, can sort of give them some additional guidance on things that we would like to see should they decide that they're going to apply for a grant in the future, the kinds of things that we really need to see out of.
Well, I think maybe we don't owe that to them, but I think it would be to both their advantage and ours to give them the kind of feedback so that they do know where we're coming from and what our concerns are.
Because to be clear, I mean, the public has invested a lot of money in this, and I think all three of us want to see them succeed.
Yes.
And so, just for the record, want folks to know this shouldn't be taken as a sign of us not supporting them.
Right.
It's just I feel this particular application didn't meet the mark of what we would need to be able to fund it.
We just still have concern.
Yeah, I'm concerned. I mean, I have questions about I am curious how many customers they have currently for fiber. How much, exactly how much demand are we going to have for TV? And also another question that came up when I was going through it was, is this something that we'll constantly have to invest more money in it to keep up with technology?
Is it ever going to
Or is it just one time? Yeah, I'm not sure.
So are we in agreement that this would be not funded?
They can apply again when?
It will open again in connection with the budget cycle. So later today in this meeting, we'll be talking about sort of when we want to start rolling out the next budget cycle. But I'm thinking that it'll open again probably January timeframe. And those applications would come in March. And the budget committee would start in April.
Is there any, this just popped into my head, but is there any assistance available to them as far as getting this in order, as far as the next, if they decide they do want to move forward for the next grant cycle or something, if they could have some help with what we want to see and
I mean,
put together this?
I think I would definitely, our office is definitely available if folks want to ever run by their ideas and have us take initial looks at them. I mean, I'm happy to do that, obviously with the caveat that, me helping them does not necessarily guarantee they would be funded, but at least showing some areas where I think they could strengthen, and I think we're happy to do that. And Kelly always does an initial check just to make sure everything's in order. But in terms of that more in-depth stuff, we can also talk about, when we talk about what we want to do for next year's grants, one of the ideas that we had been kicking around is maybe doing a workshop where we actually invite people to come in and ask for help and sort of setting aside staff time to be able to dig into those either one-on-one and get more hands-on assistance with completing applications. And so I think we could look at that too, maybe February timeframe when folks should be dialing these in. So in terms of what we want to do with this though, agreement not to fund, how are we feeling about this?
Do not fund at this time. That's
Okay.
my feeling.
Yes, that's how I felt. Okay. So we do not think we need a motion for that. I think we can just by consensus do that. Okay. The number 3 is from the Port of Arlington. This request should look familiar to us. It was submitted in the previous grant cycle, and I believe may have even been submitted to the previous court.
Well, it's the budget committee.
Yeah, so it's come before us a couple of times. The idea is extending the water and sewer infrastructure to the end of the port's island. And as I just mentioned, it was submitted to us during the last budget cycle, where both us and the budget committee members reviewed it, and was denied funding at that point. The grant review team's recommendation is not to fund again. This is mostly, I think, just because there continues to not really be a plan for what is step 2 and 3 after this is extended. There's really no concrete plan for development, ways to fund that development. My own concern is that we would fund, if we funded this infrastructure, that then they would be coming back next year to ask us to fund the buildings and then the building after that. And that this would just become a county project, basically, that we would continue to put money in without really having a comprehensive plan about.
Yeah, that's my concern is, are we building a bridge to nowhere? Because there is no true development plan that the port itself has put out. I think the port manager had some ideas and some thoughts that were presented at the last port meeting that I went to. But even the port commission seemed to be hesitant about what that proposal was. So that's my concern, is there isn't any long-term plan for it. And my other question is, and I've tried to do a little research on this, and so I apologize for not having anything concrete in front of me, but didn't the port previously request money from the county to remodel and upgrade the current bathrooms that are there?
Yes.
And that has not happened, so I'm not sure what happened to that money, or what their intentions are, if they still have that money, or if they've spent it somewhere else. That's another concern of mine with this, is the court that gave the money that they asked for to improve the bathrooms, and nothing's been done. And that was before I was sworn in as
That was before we were
commissioner.
here. Yeah.
So I'm not sure. If projects are being funded and not completed, I'm very concerned about that. So if we funded this, is it actually going to get completed or not? And where are the matching funds coming from again? Did that say? I don't have that in front of me right now.
I had that question too. Because it says in the big application, I think it said,
Remember what it said.
well, it just said Port of Arlington, Port of Arlington.
Oh,
Money
so
was
they're
coming
all
from-
money.
The money was coming from the port, but where is
Cash
that?
and kind.
Did it say that?
It says, yeah, it says cash and in kind, but what's interesting is within, it talks about this being sort of a Marine Board partially funded for the bathrooms, because they're talking about wrapping both together, right? So it would be the bathrooms plus the extension. So conceivably, if it's a Marine Board, there should be some matching funds coming in from them too, I would think, but it's not in the application.
Yeah. The bathroom, the other thing I noticed in the application was it talked about replacing the bathroom, the new word, and I wasn't quite sure what they meant by replacement of the bathroom. Are they talking about starting completely over? Because when we gave the money previously, I thought it was for improvements to the bathroom.
Seems like they might run afoul with current accessibility laws.
Yeah.
If they do too
ADA.
extensive of a remodel, so it may actually be replaced.
They have to start over.
I don't know that that's 100% true, but I know that other businesses have had that challenge in Arlington. They want to fix things, and you
Okay.
can only go so far, and then it becomes
Might as well
replaced
start
instead of
over.
remodel.
Were there any changes to this application, or is this the application that was?
I kind of felt it was the application that was supplied previously with certain portions deleted, but I don't know if that's true. I didn't go back and, check verbatim to see, but it felt potentially recycled.
Yeah, I just wondered if, I mean, if it.
I mean,
yeah, if there had
definitely,
been
because the
improvements
proposal
made.
came before the budget committee was to fix the bathrooms and extend the sewer line. And the discussion in the budget committee ended basically with budget committee saying, hey, look, extend the sewer line is not really something we're interested in, but we would like to see the bathrooms fixed. So I feel like this is just kind of recycled for verbiage from that. Whether it is or not, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't go look, but
And I get, again, I'm surprised that nobody's here to discuss it, because I do have some more questions, but I can't ask.
So can I just real quick on that statement, Commissioner Weatherall? When this was all created, it was to eliminate having people come here and lobby you. during
Well, I don't
the
need a
session.
lobby, but occasionally I might have a couple things
Right,
that they could give a
but
quick
that part of
answer.
having people here, it was sort of taken out, so I think if you want that, you need to be specific to people that you want them to be available.
Does it say anywhere that they can't?
it does
No,
not.
it's a public
It
meeting, anybody
doesn't.
can come,
Yeah.
but
So-
it was made clear that that was something that
And
we
it-
wanted to cut back on.
Well, yeah, I knew it, like the budget committee meetings, we didn't want to schedule half-hour meetings with every group to go over stuff.
And the
Yeah.
review teams tried to do it in a vacuum too, just look at the application itself and not solicit. I mean, the idea is that Kelly's reviewed it in such a manner, it's complete, and we can make a decision what's in your hands versus having to ask a bunch of questions. So really, if you've got questions, it's not a complete application and it's not to
It's
be
okay to
approved.
tell us about.
I mean, that's the way grants work when I worked in the government. If it was incomplete, you just throw it in the file, you're done, so. Well, I worked at university, when I say government, yeah.
I agree with that, I agree with what
Yeah,
you're
so
saying.
I don't know. I'm not saying that- I'm not
I
saying
hope
we
we have a
need
little
to-
bit of a learning curve though.
Yeah, I don't
because
say we need to be that,
it's people in our
regimented
county.
necessarily, but that's kind of the way the review teams viewed it. It's just look at what you got in front of you.
Okay, well, based on what I have in front of me, I say we deny this application.
I'm a no as well. I think, Leslie,
Okay,
are you a yes or a no?
no.
And that is, I mean, for me, several things, but one is that it has been denied multiple times at this point. I don't think there's buy-in. The other thing that the grant committee raised, and I think it's worth kind of giving feedback to them, is there was nothing in here about the city of Arlington's role. I mean, it's connected to their water and sewer. Is this something that they looked at? Have they already denied the port? All of those kinds of things. Seems to be an extension of a sewer line should have gone to the city first before coming to us, so.
Okay.
Anyway, okay. Anything else on this
Well,
one?
yeah, and they've come and had how many different people say no? I mean, it isn't just this commission, and it wasn't just that.
They've had two courts
And
and two different grant committees
committees,
and the budget committee twice.
Okay. Enough said.
Okay.
All right. So by consensus, we'll deny those last two. I will send out letters to all three, just letting them know of the court's decision. Obviously, the Elks will get the actual grant agreement turned around to them very shortly so that we can get, that's checks cut.
Right.
Okay. Other than that, let's go into court reports. Leslie.
I'm still not done with the last one.
She's still taking
I'm
it.
still thinking.
Still taking it in.
Yes.
Okay.
Look, I got my book.
Nice work.
Impressed.
Completely organized.
And 52 other little tiny pieces.
Well, yeah, but
I just want to throw that.
baby steps. I want to congratulate the school board.
Yes, that's very exciting. The big win on the school district. Longest been passed. Yay.
Good support from the community.
Yes. Good. What was the?
It was, I think, 76% in favor,
Yeah.
24 opposed, so pretty strong showing.
Very encouraging.
I was also pretty impressed with the courthouse winning a regional award.
No, the scarecrow people.
Our scarecrow,
Ooh.
yeah.
Yeah, it was very cute. Well done.
Okay, so on the 8th of October 8th, I attended North Central Public Health District meeting. On the 23rd, I attended the Tri-County Court meeting by phone. And you both were there. We had the road tour. Got to go on a fabulous road tour on the 30th. Got to see a tiny house. Was able to see a lot.
Right in the truck.
Going up Worley Canyon was a
Eye opener.
yes.
Mhm.
That was
really helpful.
very good. So and getting a chance to hear from the road committee, it was really good. Saturday I was able to attend Arlington Artisans Show and Sell. Could be the first annual. I don't know.
Great.
But it was very nice at the Gronkos building. So that was kind of fun. I'm planning on attending I got a North Central Public Health District meeting on the 12th. I am finally going on an irrigation project tour on the 13th. Finally got pinned down on a date and it's going to work. And then the week of the 19th, I'm going to be in Eugene for the AOC conference. Excited about that. I do want to mention that I am taking the Malibu. I already have the keys, and it's going to be in Arlington for a couple weeks, and that could just be the Arlington car. So if anybody's looking for it,
Because there wasn't the other car now.
yeah, we were without a car. So if anybody's looking for it, that's where it is.
Okay.
I had a question about this elected officials and community partners academy.
I have not seen,
I think this is the one that maybe was covered a little bit in your county college.
from the Gary Center.
Yes.
Oh, right, okay,
And so
yeah.
my question is how do I find out when the next one's going to be? Because it looks like they have them 4 times a year, but do I just need to get a hold of Gary and say, can you post it?
Jim
Yeah.
Smith.
I want to talk to somebody.
I think Gary can probably connect you, or,
I think that's what he's gonna tell you.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it was,
I really just want somebody to tell me when it comes up so I don't have to pay attention. I can just
right, there
be
you go.
notified when it gets close.
We did that at county college and it was very, very interesting.
It looks interesting.
It was really helpful.
Then the last thing I had, I promise this is the last thing. I just wanted to mention something because it's something that I'm hearing out in the community, and I thought maybe we could just talk about it real quick, kind of address it. It's a concern that I'm hearing from our constituents, and that is over the brevity of our meetings. And I just wanted to give my 2 cents on it, and you guys can add too if you like. But the way I've responded to a couple people that have asked me about it is that, we've changed. We've done a pretty good overhaul of how we do the meetings in general. The packets are coming out in a very timely manner. And we're not getting a lot of the last minute stuff. We're not getting a lot of the night before or morning of things. We're having plenty of opportunity to call staff and ask our questions. So when we get here, I just feel very prepared and don't need a lot of explanation. And we've done our homework, we're ready to go. The other thing is the consent agenda. I think it's made a huge difference in the time frame of our meetings because we're able to, in one fell swoop, take care of many things that in the past we would spend 20 minutes talking about each one individually. And like I said, also the agenda item briefing that you've implemented is excellent. And it just gives a very thorough report. And so I don't have as many questions as I used to have about what's being put before us, so less conversation.
Well, and in the consent agenda also, the minutes are being reviewed and edited and then sent back to be reviewed. And so when we get them here in the consent agenda, we have all had an opportunity to individually look at them rather than going over them for 20 minutes to make corrections or additions. Yes. So that's cutting down a lot.
Yes. So I just wanted to bring that up because I think that a lot of people just don't realize that all that has transpired and that they just see that, sometimes we get done in half an hour. And it's like, well, they're not doing anything or, what's going on to make it so quick. So I thought, well, I just mentioned it, maybe people that watch on the TV can see how we're doing things and maybe that's the reason why.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say too is that part of when the staff is putting together the agenda, we really try to focus on things that are ready for court action or need the next sort of direction from the court. And so we don't put discussion items on here that are typically things that we would talk about. If we have things like that, we tend to work on them in work sessions, which also cuts down on the amount of time that we're in here. Because most of the things that are on here are, we need to take action on them, and so they're ready to go. I think that helps as well.
I'm also actually looking forward to bringing in the different departments too, though, and starting to give their updates, and that will make things happen once we start having them show up too. But anyway, just something I've been hearing out in the community, and I thought, well, maybe we mention it. Yeah. And I'm done.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, this is gonna sound like I've been following Leslie around. This is not true. It's not true.
I know, that's why I go first.
I also attended the Tri-County and Frontier Telenet meeting on October 23rd in Fossil. And we had a break between Tri-County meeting and the Frontier Telenet meeting that gave us a really good opportunity to network with Sherman and Miller County, which is always good. And Kathy was there. And so there's a lot of interacting going on there that's very beneficial. I had a Norcor regular board meeting and a work session on October 24th, and we're discussing in the work session the structure of replacing the administrator. Is that what we want to see? Do we want a business manager? And right now we have put that back on the current administrative group, which is Sheriff Lowry and Molly Rogers and Dan Lindhorst and Jeff to come back with what the job description looks like from their perspective of having done this work and seeing what they don't want to do anymore, which is the business side, totally. So that, when do we meet again? We have a call on Thursday morning at 9, but that's about. So anyway, that's where we're at with that. We're working towards that. I did attend the road tour, and I think it was time well spent with the roadmaster and the road committee. And Lily Canyon was interesting, and what they've done on Lone Rock grade gives us a good idea of what the Lily Canyon project completion might look like. So something needs to happen. And the road committee stressed to us, their desire to make sure that we're investing in our infrastructure, and yes, which is very important. Very important. On October 31st, I participated in the trunk or treat that the Arlington Community Chamber of Commerce sponsors.
Your stall for yours was very good.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I trick-or-treated. I didn't participate, but I did. Well, I kind of participated because I came and trick-or-treated.
Yes, you did. But it was really interesting. The first time I've been able to do that. I'm not sure what annual one it was, 3 or 4.
Oh, I think it's
5 or 6.
It's probably 5 or 6.
Yeah. Anyway, I've had my mother previously, so I wasn't able to do it. And I'll have you know, I received 2nd place.
Really?
Yes. I'm quite proud. Quite proud because I thought I could have done a lot more. So we'll see what happens next year. I'm going to attend the EOCCO workshop tomorrow.
I was going to ask if anybody was going to mention that.
I am going to do that.
I will be there as well.
And yes, we'll let you know what we learn. We'll gather materials for you. You're welcome. And the court has its regular meeting on Tuesday the 12th in Arlington, and I will be attending that. And then we are going to the AOC conference the week of the 18th through 22nd. And I'm looking forward to that.
I forgot something.
Oh, of course.
I didn't mention that the Tri-County Court meeting I attended by telephone, And that was something that just occurred to me, I think the night before. It was like, well, I can't make it, but maybe I can call in. So I got a hold of, thank you. Got a hold of Brenda, and she accommodated me. And it was very nice to be able to, even if I couldn't kept driven all the way to Fossil that day for pretty kind of a short meeting. I was able to listen in and hear everything. So that was good. I'll keep that in mind in the future. If I can't make it, I should at least be able to call in.
Okay, I've got several things for you guys. Fiber Council is up and running. We had our first meeting last week. We went ahead and appointed a 5th member, which is Josh Hendricks, for this court's recommendation. So Catherine's in the process now of setting up meetings with potential customers. So we'll be starting to meet with those entities and talking about their needs. And we're also starting to look at pricing. One of the things that I just wanted to run by you guys is, are you concerned, would you like us to be running those numbers and bringing them back to the court? Are you guys okay with Rita and I as the county's representatives figuring out how much to charge in those leases? So right now we're talking.
What's the city council doing on that matter?
I'm just making sure that the city council is updated on what the fiber council talks about. And they've already talked about some of it, so some of the rates have already come before the council, and they've just kind of had a consensus of what they think it's supposed to be.
I think we created a committee to do the work.
Okay.
And if we tried to oversee that we would be micromanaging.
Okay.
Micromanage at home, then you have 3 dogs.
Well, and I think our goal too is that everything that comes out of the fiber council immediately goes back to our governing bodies, so they're not in the dark about what the fiber council is doing. And hopefully your reps are also keeping you.
And I would plan on
well-informed.
continuing, probably similar to the Frontier Telenet updates, to just putting those on the agenda when we have. Because I think that's a good day. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't overstepping by just having Rita and I kind of
I think
represent.
that's why we have you representing us.
Okay. Next thing, let's talk about where to go next. Let's see here. I wanted to just let you guys know that we are talking internally now about relaunching the newsletter.
Oh, good.
And so Rachel and Lisa and I had a good conversation yesterday about that. And so we're aiming to have the first one come out probably January timeframe, to kind of do a look back on sort of accomplishments for this year, and then also kind of a forward, what folks can expect and some of the issues we'll be tackling in 2020. So you guys,
Very excited.
yes,
that's fine.
if you have specific story ideas that you would like in the mix, then please just let Rachel know. She sent out an email to staff soliciting those, and so she and I will sit down with Lisa and kind of figure out what to put in the first edition and move from there. Good. So the other thing, I just want some clarity on policy. So we have we obviously have a collective bargaining agreement that deals with floating holidays, and it says that those are credited on a fiscal year basis. Our policy, our employee policy, which our non-represented employees fall by, still is using a calendar, like a regular yearly calendar for those floating holidays.
That makes it a little tough to track though.
It does, and so I just wanted clarity, because what I think has happened is the CBA was updated and then the employee handbook wasn't updated to match. So I am looking for clarity that our employees who are non-represented can use those floating holidays the same fiscal year. And I think we can do that by consensus for now, because we don't actually have a written policy to do that. Otherwise, our folks are going to need to be using those before the end of the year, and that's coming up. So they need some clarity from us on whether they can use those in
I think we should track them all the same.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so too, uniformity.
That is fine by me, but it just, because it was in the policy, wanted to make sure that we're okay with that. So, next up is, let's see here. Let's go to Christmas-related stuff. I think traditionally the county has provided hams. And so I wanted to see if we still want to do that so that Teresa and I can get that all set up and let folks know and make arrangements. Yeah, all of that kind of stuff. So are we okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. I can continue doing that. There's an all-staff meeting, I believe, next week to talk about Christmas parties and our holiday parties and things like that. So I will report back kind of what we hear from the staff during that meeting. The other thing that we've been getting questions about, I think historically sometimes courts have allowed, for instance, half days on Christmas Eve day. And we looked at the policy, and that is definitely a court decision. So, and we don't necessarily need to make that decision today, but at minimum we would need to make it by the next meeting so that folks.
You're talking about New Year's too, or just Christmas?
It's up to us. The policy says that we can choose what we want to do. And so if we wanted to, I would see it not as just, I would see it as just a token of gratitude that the court would extend to our staff for all their hard work. And so not necessarily something that definitely has to happen every year, but it's, like I said, our discretion. So do you want to think about it? Or are we ready? Or
You're in favor?
I'm actually okay with, I would say Christmas Eve day, I think. And I don't know if you want to do a half day. Okay. Okay. So let's do a half day for Christmas Eve day. Is that where we're?
Yes.
Okay. We will let staff know about that. Last thing that's related is the December and January meeting schedule. So for December, we had sort of left it in limbo about whether we would meet on the 18th or not when we last talked about meetings. My recommendation is going to be that we hold both meetings.
Okay.
We have got several planning hearings that are coming up. So we will have the one that was postponed that was going to be held today. I think Michelle is noticing for the 4th.
Okay.
There is a second one potentially that she has in the works for the waste management review. That would be on the 18th.
Okay.
So there's a review connected to that. And so she just needed clarity from us that we're going to be meeting those days, and also that the 18th would be in Arlington.
Okay.
That's the last meeting of the quarter, I'm assuming. She's going to have to publicly notice that, so she just needed direction from us on when we're meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we'll plan on those two, and there'll be hearings scheduled for those planning items. For January, the 1st and 3rd meetings, the first Wednesday is the 1st of January. So I'm assuming we will not want to meet on the 1st, on New Year's Day. So my question is, do we want to just keep the 3rd week, which is the 15th, and have one meeting in January, or do we want to meet the 8th and the 22nd?
For some reason, I feel like there's something on the 8th. Well, I knew it. Dentist appointment. But it's not till the afternoon, so whatever you guys think.
What do you think our workload is going to be?
Yes.
We're going to have all of the regular first meeting,
Right.
housekeeping appointments, all of that kind of stuff.
I think we should.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah. The other thing is too, a lot can happen between now and the end of the year that we may need to have time for. So how about for now, we tentatively hold the 8th and the 22nd. So we have both. We'll plan on meeting on the 8th. If the workload doesn't, if we're waiting on things, and then we can always cancel the 22nd. But for now, let's hold both of those dates if that works. And then the 29th is Tri-County Court, just so that's on your frontier calendar. There was one other thing that I was going to note, just for my own, what I'm up to, is that I will also be having that long-awaited meeting with the city of Boardman over building codes next Tuesday. So wish me luck. And I will report back when I see you guys in December on how that goes, and see if we can hopefully reach an agreement on building codes with them. And I think that's all I have. Just a few things. Anything else?
Judge? Would you allow a couple post-agenda items to be talked about for just a minute?
Sure. We have a few minutes before we, don't blow through my 2-hour limit, is all I'm saying.
For the record, again, let's regard. First off, just a quick mention about your discussion of one of the projects, that being the ports. I think it exemplifies a really good reason why there needs to be much more substantive and serious budget building at the Port Commission level itself. And I would hope that I know that there's some efforts underway in terms of looking at the overall role of economic development between the two jurisdictions. And I just want to note for the record, so to speak, that that's probably where things need to begin right away. And particularly now that there's been a new commissioner appointed from the Condon area that just happens to be the previous county judge. I think that adds a dynamic to the Port Commission's membership that's going to be important for this court to not cope with, but to be a part of. Because there needs to be that collaboration, and there certainly is a bridge for it now. The other item here I want to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about has to do with the court's appointment. And I was out of the room when it probably occurred of one of the President County Planning Commissioners reappointment. And I certainly take no exception with Marta Michael's competence and ability to perform in that position. And by reading what I want to bring up here as something to think about, by doing so, I'm certainly not trying to get myself in trouble with Martin.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
Well, I'll tell you, there's no one that is more qualified to be in that role than Martin is, and I certainly recognize that. But having said that, I really think it's important when the court looks at the appointments, particularly to the County Planning Commission, that even though they're likely to make a reappointment in the case of Marta's expiring term, they really need to go through the process of putting that appointment out there. And if for no other reason than to garner the applications, if there were, you know how hard it is, more than anyone, to attract people to serve in volunteer capacities. But just for the opportunity of generating what interest there might be by others, so you can look at that application next time whenever there is a vacancy. But my point being that even though you're likely to reappoint other commissioners when there's a vacancy or when there's an expiring term involved, I really think it behooves the court to go through the process of putting the word out that that term is expiring. Everyone has an opportunity to apply for it. You take part of this good work and your ability, and you have to make a reappointment, but there are others you could look at. Okay, let me raise one other item and then I'll close out here. And it's been one I've been meaning to try to find an opportunity to put out there to you. And that has to do with what I believe or understand to be your consideration of promoting or putting forth an effort to put on the ballot the opportunity for the voters to change the two county commission positions from being partisan ones they are now to being bipartisan. And I'm wearing my hat, obviously, of being a precinct committee person and one that's involved in the Democratic side of things, but I'm also looking at it from a public participation perspective. And the latter is what's most important to me. I think you really need to be careful about pursuing that at this point, because you'd be eliminating an opportunity for the involvement of that many more others in the process there is at times, which is really an important one, of naming a replacement to a vacancy that occurs on the county court. That is, in other words, to be quite political about it here. When we went through the process we did in 2016, we were worried, we being those on the outside of the county court, about it ending up being just those three individuals figuring out who amongst them that they wanted to put out on the table as the names that they would select from. And what we were able to do was we put amongst them Leslie's name and two others, and we had the opportunity of putting up to 5 others on the table for the court to look at making a selection from. And I'm saying here that what's important, I think, going down the road is that we keep that option of doing that. So that in your case, I would have full confidence that we wouldn't be limited to just whomever 1, 2, or 3 names might be put on the table for looking at naming a replacement. But I'd like to see that we continue to protect that option of doing so. I hope I'm making a little bit of sense.
So, to that, are there other counties, for instance, like, could a system just be put in place where not necessarily it's just decided by precinct committee people, but say that there's could we put in place, for instance, a community sort of selection committee that then refers those, so there's still an opportunity to
Honestly,
have
I haven't
community?
looked at that aspect of it. It sounds like it would be one that would take the place of what you're talking about. I realize that a number of other counties throughout the state have gone to making the position nonpartisan. And I'm looking at it from the parochial perspective of right here where I participate in. And I just think it's important to make sure that we have as much opportunity to put names out there on the table for you to look at as possible.
Makes sense.
Okay, thank you for putting us back.
Of course, thank you, we appreciate your attendance. If you could, that would be great. So we've got your spelling, the spelling of your name. Anything else for the good of the order? If not, our next regular meeting will be December 4th. We did just decide to do a special meeting. And so, obviously the 18th is out because we are, but I'm thinking that last week in November likely is what we'd be looking at. And before Thanksgiving sometime. So let me see how quickly our council can turn around that document, and then I'll have Teresa get in touch about coordinating schedules so we can get something on everybody's calendar. Thinking it'll just be 2-3 minutes, just to consider that one item. So
I'll look at calling.
yeah, so you can do a call-in if we needed to. Okay, if there's nothing else, then I will adjourn the meeting.